Now I've completed my environment assessment, I can move on to the geoarchaeology assessment. And the simplest way to get from the environment assessment to the geoarchaeology assessment is just to click on it here in the left-hand card tree. The geoarchaeology assessment is the main area in which we enter geological and geomorphological data. So this is the core of the geoarchaeology resource model, and it's the bit that is most different to the heritage place model. So the first thing we start off with is the overall certainty, is the geoarchaeological certainty observation. This is your overall certainty as to whether the site or feature you are describing contains evidence of a past environment, a past landscape, or environmental change. So think of it as being like the overall certainty value for heritage place. We simply select from the drop-down menu, high, medium, low. In this case, I have a high certainty that my site contains evidence of environmental change in past landscapes, and click Add to enter that information. The next box refers to the source of evidence. So this is what technique or approach has been used to obtain the geoarchaeological evidence which you are documenting. So we use this to understand how the evidence has been derived and thus its likely accuracy. So in my case, I'm getting the information from a satellite image, so I can select satellite image. If necessary, I can link this to a particular information resource which has been stored separately. For example, I may have this particular satellite image stored as an information resource, and I can link to it from here. You'll note that there are also other terms as well, so you can choose multiple terms if you have multiple different methods that have been applied to your site. But after you enter each one, make sure you click Add, and you will see the term appear in blue below. After this, we now go to the General Date section, and this allows you to enter information about the age of the feature through general periods rather than precise numerical ages. Effectively, it's a bit like the cultural period field, which is used for heritage places, but the cultural periods are replaced by geological periods. To access this, we click Add, and this will add general date in blue text below. To get to the specific fields, you then click on the blue text, and you will see you have two separate sections here. You may use one of these, either quaternary divisions or marine isotope stages, or you could use both. It depends on what information you have at hand. This is all standard terminology using agreed upon geological categories, most of which you can find in the literature. If you're unsure of any, consult the glossary. So in this case, my beach ridges are probably quite recent, approach from the Holocene. So I would select Holocene, probable, and then Add. Hypothetically, if I was using the marine isotope stage terminology as well, the Holocene is roughly equivalent to marine isotope stage 1. There will eventually be a list of terms populated here, and you simply need to select from one of them in order to fill in the data. To return to the main bit of the geoarchaeology page, I can simply click back to the geoarchaeology assessment in the card tree, and I return. And you will see under general date, if I want to access that date section again, all I have to do is click on the blue text below. Having entered the general date, we come to the geoarchaeology feature assessment section. And this is actually the core of the geoarchaeology resource model. So this contains multiple fields which you use to describe and interpret the geological or geomorphological evidence which you're recording. So think of it as being like the feature assessment for a heritage place. You'll see, first of all, as you've seen with other examples previously, that there are no fields at the moment. To get to them, click Add, and then we click on the blue text which appears afterwards. And you'll see this section is broken down into three main sections: sediment, landform, and interpretation. So what we do first of all is we describe the geomorphological or geological evidence in terms of sediment or landform. You can use only one of these, or you can use both. It's up to you. It depends on the nature of the evidence you're working with. And you then provide an interpretation for it. So the first two sections are all about description, and then the next two sections are about interpretation. Now, the site I'm describing in this case is primarily composed of landform evidence. These are physical characteristics of landforms, which are geomorphological features that form on the Earth's surface or are sometimes buried under the ground. So just to show you again the example, I'm not going to enter sediment characteristics for this particular site because I don't have specific sediment samples for this site. So I don't actually know exactly what each of these ridges is composed of. However, I can see the structure and I can see the pattern of landforms in this case, and that is what I'll record. So I will, for this one, I can leave out sediment and I will focus on landforms. So I will pick the type of landform. So remember, this is firstly descriptive. So in this case, I think I am dealing with a series of ridges. So I can select ridges. I'm dealing with, just as an estimate again, probably 21 to 50 separate ridges. I can then add another term which describes their arrangement. In this case, I would describe them as parallel. How certain am I that these are genuine landforms relating to past environments? There's a high certainty associated with it. So then I click Add. So as you can see, this descriptive option is very similar to what you have for the heritage place resource model, with just slight differences in terminology for landforms. Having described them, I now move on to my interpretation. Again, I just simply select from the drop-down menu the particular types of terms, and you can see they are first categorized by the process which deposited them. So aeolian in this case is windblown. I have dunes, for example, biological processes, chemical processes, and so on. So my beach ridges were probably deposited by a marine process. So I can scroll down to marine and coastal, and I can select beach ridge. And I add my certainty value for this. I have a fairly high certainty. I can click Add, and you can see it's included there. And then finally, if I want to add a relationship to another geoarchaeological or paleolandscape feature, I can do this as well, as long as it has been previously recorded. In this case, I'm not going to do it because I don't have one linked to this site which I previously recorded, but this is where you do it in the same way as you would with an information resource. Just one point to note before we leave the geoarchaeology feature assessment. With all these sections, you can add multiple terminologies. So if I have two different types of landform on my site, for example, if I had another feature in addition to the break and slope, in addition to the ridges, for example. So let's say hypothetically there was a channel also. I could add channel gully 1 isolated and high, and that would add it in here below. If I wanted to remove it, I could simply click a little minus button and then return to my geoarchaeology feature card. The same with the interpretation. I have an interpretation of a beach ridge, but alternatively, if I wanted to add another term, I could simply select it here, add a certainty value, and click Add, and that would add it again beneath here. So having completed this part of the feature assessment, we can now return via the left-hand card tree to the geoarchaeology assessment. And you will see here below the feature assessment, we have the geoarchaeological time space. So before, further up, we entered a general date in terms of a rough period. The time space is has a number of different free text fields which allow you to enter the date in numerical terms. So for example, let's say your site has radiocarbon dates or uranium series dates, you can enter these in numbers. So, and note the terminology required: negative for BC, net positive for AD, and use calibrated rather than uncalibrated ages. So let's say hypothetically, my site was 10,000 BC. My oldest date from the site was 10,000 BC. I could enter a minus 10,000. And let's say the youngest date from my site was 5,000 BC. I could enter minus 5,000. If you have dates in BP, before present, as you sometimes find with a lot of geological dates, you can use these two fields instead. So all these are simply free text fields which allow you to enter the date, a from and to date, and oldest and youngest age in numerical terms. And after you've entered the numbers, simply click Add to enter them in. So for example, let's say 10,000 BP to 5,000 BP. Add, and you'll see again that date appears here below. The final thing you can do in this section is you can add a relationship to a heritage place. Let's say, for example, there was a heritage place located inside this geoarchaeological site. You could then add the relationship here as you would with an information resource. In this case, there is no related heritage place, so I will leave that blank. So this completes the infilling of the geoarchaeology resource model. As you can see, there are some differences to heritage place, but also there are lots of similarities, which should hopefully make it easy for you to fill out and hopefully provide you with useful data. Moving on from there, you can access a condition assessment. Should you wish to complete a condition assessment for your geoarchaeological site, this is not essential, but it's there if you wanted to do it as well. And the condition assessment for the geoarchaeology site is identical to the one for heritage place. There are no differences there. Yep, so that ends this tutorial.